Well, hello, day 3 of my epic Belper Peaks adventure, and I've come back to Black Rocks in the car, I'm sorry to say, well, not really sorry to say, because I'm going to do the High Peaks Trail, and I'm going to do the High Peaks Trail on the gravel bike. And you want to see the gravel bike? Of course you do. It is the Fairlight Seacan, and there it is, ready and raring to go. Incidentally, a little point here for the good folk of Derbyshire. I rocked up at the car park here at Black Rocks a little bit early, 8:15 on a Sunday morning. Went to have a shit, as you do, first thing in the morning, as all cyclists know, although it was the second one for me, as it happens. And it was closed. Toilets open from 9 o'clock, it says. So what do you do in Derbyshire if you need a shit at 8:15 in the morning on a Sunday? Leave a comment down below if you know the answer, and if you work for Derbyshire County Council, how about it, guys? Let me have an answer, because time is getting tight. Well, I'm travelling along an old railway line which has been converted into the High Peaks Trail, and here we can see part of the old railway line, and on this thing here it says Peak Waste. So in answer to those of you who say, "Oh, what did you do about your shit, Julian?" Well, you see that peak waste truck? Yes, folks. Julian disrobed and squatted and did his business and left it for the good folk of Derbyshire. Isn't this interesting? I love coming across places like this. I call it serendipity. There was a girl at my school called Serendipity, by the way, although she had a lot of bad luck, which seemed a shame, really, considering her name. Well, this is, in fact, Steeple Grange Light Railway. And it says Steeplehouse was Wirksworth's first railway station, opened in 1830 by the Cromford and High Peak Railway. Well, isn't this fascinating? So this is it still running? I'm not sure, really. I suspect not. Although it does say here, see there, it says there, beware of trains. Beware of trains. I mean, there's a sort of platform there with some benches. Can you see that? Some runners coming around to spoil the view. Do you want to see them? I don't. Really avoid them. And this says, I'm not sure if you can read this on the GoPro. It says, London and North Western Railway Company, after the Great War of 1914-18, more than 120,000 headstones were carried on this line, destined for Imperial War Grave cemeteries. We will remember them. Isn't that a fine monument? And that's one of the kind of extraordinary facts, of course, about perhaps the Great War, the post-Great War period. But things like that, these headstones, so they had to be built, they had to be carved, and they had to be transported. And they were transported on the railways. Absolutely fascinating. Love it. I was just setting up the old Fairlight Seacan here in the railway tracks, so to take a photograph for you. Couldn't it be difficult to stop it falling over? I managed to wedge it in, and then I did think about kind of strapping myself to the line, like you see in those old Western movies. I mean, that's usually a damsel with the baddie is strapped to the line. Never quite sure why they did that. Anyway, I nearly did that, but I couldn't get the string tied tight enough. And then a railway man came along and said, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" And I said, "I'm trying to recreate one of those old Western movies." And he said, "Well, don't." So I stopped. Well, here I am on the benches, waiting for a train, or a chuff. I have a funny feeling I could be waiting here for quite a while, because it doesn't look like the trains are running today. So, typical British rail service, I suppose. Still, I think it's a fascinating place. I've cycled, incidentally, about 400 yards, and that could be the extent of my cycling for today. Who knows? I had to do it. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have. God forgive me, but I had to do it. Well, I've just come up Middleton Incline, which, as the name suggests, is a hill. Well, I'm inclined to say it's not a hill, it's a fucking mountain. You can't tell. This is one of the things about filming. You may notice this from the Tour de France actually. You don't really get a feel for how steep a climb actually is until you're on the bike. Anyway, the thing about the incline is that the wagons obviously couldn't be pulled by steam trains up a steep hill like this. So the wagons were attached to a steel cable and steel chain, which was then drawn up the incline by an engine, which was located in this building here, which is an engine house. And I could have done with a steel cable to pull me up, frankly. Not sure what this is. It's a bit like a compass. And on the top it says B, on the bottom it says S. On the right hand side there's a kind of arrow. So it might be a compass, might be some Derbyshire Masonic symbols, or it might be a clock, or it might be something else. And here's one of the wagons that would have been drawn up the steep incline by the steel cables. I think you can tell it's a pretty big old wagon, and well, I suppose it would be if it's carrying stone from the quarry, which is at the foot of this slope. I suppose I could sort of put the GoPro in my mouth and crawl underneath, and so you could get an image of what it's like, but I'm not going to. This is a wheel and a bit of suspension there. I could do with a bit of suspension on my Fairlight Seacan. I wonder if I could use this. There you can see the close-up of the wooden side of the wagon, and there some rust on the bolt, decay, age and decay, and a loss of memory. How close an old railway wagon is to a 65-year-old man. Well, here at the top where the engine house is, this is Middleton Top, and here's a sign saying, "Welcome to the Pennine Bridleway, the gateway to freedom and adventure." So look down the path. There lies freedom, there lies adventure. I wonder if that's what Matt Hancock says to himself. Maybe it said it to his wife, and she said, "Go then, go and find yourself, see if I care." So he went. So this is the High Peak Trail now that I'm cycling along. I won't do a lot of this kind of footage because, frankly, it's not very interesting, is it? But this is to give you a feel of what it's like. Of course, when you're here and you're out in the countryside, and you're listening to the birds, and you're being attacked by the bugs, and you're taking in your surroundings. I mean, that's very different from the kind of watching it on YouTube, isn't it? Now, on YouTube, you get is it 2 dimensions? I don't know. You get the dimension of looking, but you don't get the dimension of feeling. And this is one of the things that YouTube are working on, is to add a special feeling button. So instead of just looking, listening, morning, being interrupted by mountain bikers, you actually get all the other. You get the smeller vision, you get the taster vision, you get the toucher vision. That's reserved for some other kinds of videos, Nigel. Sorry. I suppose you could get it with, what's it called, Oculus Rift, or is that the kind of thing? Enhanced reality, virtual reality? I don't know. I'd be grateful just to live in a kind of reality, frankly. Not much chance there. Okay, I've come to a gate on the trail. Cyclist in front of me carried on cycling and just pushed through the gate. Now, if I tried to do that, I'd probably find the gate was locked and I would just somersault over the gate. And I would not be very popular with my wife if that were to happen. Now, let's see if these cyclists who are coming towards me now, let's see if they do that. No, they stopped. They've opened the gate and they've walked through, remounted. So their wives are looking after them as well. Shall I give it a go? What do you reckon? Right, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to put GoPro in the gob. GoPro going in the gob. I'm on the bike. I'm on the bike. I'm pushing through the gate. Yes, I've done it. He smashed through the gate. And now he closes it behind him and it swings back and forth in that eerie Macbeth type way. See these eerie giant propellers. Back in the Middle Ages, these propellers were driven by horses. And then as technology improved, they were coal driven, and then they were steam driven, and then they were gas driven, and then for a short period they were nuclear driven. And then somebody came along and said, why don't you just use the wind? What's the matter with you? And all the people said, you got a point there. And so that's, that's the way technology has moved on. All these, is it fossil fuels? Fossil fuels? I don't know what fossil fuels are. Are they fossils, like what you find on the Jurassic coast? I mean, I found a fossil, what do you call it? A trilobite. I found a fossil, and I thought, oh, I wonder if that's one of those fossil fuels I've been reading about. So I took it home and I put it in my fire, and didn't burn. So I guess that wasn't the right kind of fossil fuel. The weather, by the way, it's quite humid, but it's also quite cold. Does that make sense? It's kind of grey and cloudy and cool and sweaty at the same time. The sweaty bit may have something to do with being on the bike, of course. You want to see me? May have something to do with me being on the bike, and may just have something to do with the weather. But there's another one of those. This one is still steam driven, by the way. You see it swings slowly in the breeze. Although it's not the breeze that's causing it to do that, it's the steam. Let's just be silent for a moment. Let's see if we can hear the telltale sound of a BMW. No, it's not a BMW. It's a Ford Focus. You don't have any BMWs in Derbyshire, come on. You only get those in Kent. My friend Richard, who actually appears in the video about the Dorset trip, told me that Sevenoaks has the highest number of BMWs in the country. And I said to him, I'm not surprised. And he said neither was he. So, interesting fact there, or factoid, as Steve Wright would call it. Not sure what the difference is. This is strange, isn't it? I don't think you can really see trouble with the GoPro. But it's like a castle, though it's clearly not. It's not the ruins of a castle. It is actually a natural rocky outcrop, but giving the appearance of curtain walls. Curtain walls were what castles had before the invention of curtains, and then they had curtains and they no longer needed curtain walls. But over there, parked sort of halfway on the slope, bloody cyclist, a number of 4x4s. Not quite sure why. I wonder if this is some kind of 4x4 proving ground, or whether it's just kind of yuppies who come here from the big city and practice driving their Chelsea tractors. I mean, what do they call a Chelsea tractor in Manchester? There's a question for you. Chelsea tractor, I suppose. Can you hear banging? Wonder if it's muskets being fired at troublemakers. You'll have to watch my video about the Belper Heritage Walk if you want to understand that reference. Just past a group of runners standing by the side of the trail, not running, as runners ought to do. They went very quick to get out of the way. I said good morning, and they didn't reply. I mean, what is it about? What is it about runners? I know I don't have a Derbyshire accent. I could have said couple of little pubs, but I didn't. Anyway, there's some horse riders coming towards me now. Morning.
Morning. Thank you.
Morning. See, they were friendly, weren't they? I mean, horse riders often are friendly. Go through the back of them. Not very interesting, is it? There is a bareness and a sparseness, a kind of starkness to this landscape, which I find really quite moving and quite beautiful. The GoPro, of course, doesn't do it justice. What you see is an expanse of grey cloud and a little bit of greenery. But it's a funny thing, you know. I mean, I know global warming is real, and I know climate change is real. But the thing that kind of strikes me is that the Earth doesn't care. Global warming affects us; it affects other living things. But the Earth doesn't care whether we're here or not. We've been here for nanoseconds in the great scheme of things. And I suppose the Earth will continue quite happily without us, as it continued quite happily before we were here. Funny thing just happened. I apologise for getting all philosophical on your ass just then, but funny thing just happened. I was cycling along, right, and I was dive bombed, literally dive bombed by a wasp. It came in, I don't know if you can see my hand here, but it came in out of the sun, you know, like the German Stukas used to do in those war films. It came out of the sun like this, and it went, whoop, just like that. You want to see that again? It went, whoop, just like that, into my gob. And I was like, fuck, what the fuck is that? And I spat it out, and it flew off. And the funny thing is, as it flew off, it kind of turned around and kind of flapped its wings. Does a wasp have wings? Like it was winking at me. You know what I mean? Like it was winking at me. And it almost said to me, I'll get you next time, right? I'll get you next time. And the funny thing was, I'd cycled on a bit further, and fucking the bastard came back. And he went, whoop, and I spat him out again. And as he went off, right, I winked at him, or her. It's difficult to tell with a wasp. And I said, I got you that time. So I'm expecting in this stark, bare, not oddly, but beautiful landscape to be attacked very shortly by a swarm, a brood, what would David Cameron call it? A swarm of wasps out to get their revenge. And once all human life is gone and the Earth is here and the aliens come and they look down and they see a Fairlight sea can, which will survive, of course, and a GoPro and a Endure gravel vest, and cask, helmet, all the other sponsored items will still be here with a bit of marketing, advertising, PR around it. And they'll say, and what happened here? And they won't know. Well, they might be able to watch the GoPro, I suppose. That would give them some idea. Not much. And in this stark, bare landscape, a roadie comes along to destroy the silence. Now this here at Minninglow or Minninglow, I suppose it could be. This is an interactive adaptive sign, and what that means is the sign can say anything you want. So if you want to get philosophical on my ass, you can write it on this sign. If you want to write something offensive, like Matt Hancock ought to be back in the cabinet, then you can do so, and you can write it on this sign, and everybody who comes after you will see it, and then it will erase. It'll be like a Snapchat, and then you can put your own moniker on it. That's what you want. Minninglow on the High Peak Trail was a former goods yard on the Cromford and High Peak Railway. It says here. Some people have stopped, including a cyclist who's been passing me. A man who was attacking the gate previously. He stopped for something to eat. Okay, you can have a little bit of riding along video because the landscape has changed and it's now a wooded landscape. Wood isn't man-made, is it? You know, since I turned 65, I have become unbelievably stupid, right? For a moment there, I thought that trees were a human invention. I mean, well, how could you possibly think that? I mean, I know some people think the trees are God's invention, but I mean, trees are not a human invention, right? So the trees were here before, but trees as a what do you call it? A species, I suppose. Not these particular trees. I mean, these trees don't live forever, do they? Do they? Do trees live forever? No, no, because sometimes you hear about a tree that's like 400 years old or 500 years old or something. And so, no, trees don't live forever. So this path also has not been here forever. This path is a man-made path and was in fact a railway line. And now it's used by cyclists and walkers. And in the last couple of years, it started to be used by gravel cyclists. And the reason is, there is gravel. Do you want to see gravel close up? Yeah. That is gravel. Had enough gravel? Wheat, as Woody Allen says in Love and Death. Wheat. Golden flowing fields of wheat. You probably need to have seen Love and Death to get anything out of that last remark. But if you haven't seen it, very funny take on War and Peace. I suppose War and Peace is something Woody Allen knows something about now, with his well-documented issues with Mia Farrow. The trail goes onwards. Another one of those man-made trees there. There's a tree there, right there, you can see. Well, I've reached Parsley Hay Junction. I'm going to talk fairly quietly because this was a busy junction when it was a railway line, a railway station. But it's now a busy junction with cyclists, walkers, mountain bikers, gravel cyclists, gravel walkers even. People, there's a cycle hire place. I think you can hire a gravel bike, you can probably hire a mountain bike as well. I'm not sure if you can hire a Brompton or an e-bike, but all things are happening these days. And the countryside has changed a little, become busier, I suppose, less bleak, less stark. Not less beautiful, but just more kind of built up, I suppose, as we pan around. I've got a couple of miles left to go until Herdlow, which is the end of this section of the High Peaks Trail, and then I'll basically turn round and retrace my steps, although they're not steps, they're pedal strokes. I should retrace my pedal strokes. Come with me on that journey. Well, I've travelled 15.1 miles in about an hour and a half, with frequent stops, it must be said. Can't think why. So now I think I'll turn around. I've just gone through Herdlow, but Herdlow was really just a car park. And so I think I'll turn around and I'll go back basically the same way. So I won't film so much on the way back, you'll be glad to hear. But it's been a fabulous trip. I found when I went to Herne Bay last week and did some National Cycle Network routes, I really enjoy National Cycle Network routes. It's the combination of having a path to yourself, going through different countryside, not being assailed by BMWs and Range Rovers all the time, not having to ride in the gutter, and no traffic lights. The odd gate, yes, you've got to stop and get through, and farm vehicles you've got to watch out for, but nothing like the kind of take your life in your hands as we get in Kent, and I dare say other parts of the country when you're riding on the normal roads, sharing it with cars. So if you're not familiar with the National Cycle Network, I highly recommend it. You can do it on a road bike. You might have to put some slightly stronger tyres on it just occasionally when there's a bit of gravel, but highly recommend it. It's really enjoyable. I know I've come late to it in life, but yeah, going to want to do more of it, Well, this is an odd thing to see here, isn't it? This is a kajun, an Istrian stone shelter, a gift from Croatia to the United Kingdom to mark the accession of Croatia to the European Union on 1st July 2013, in celebration and recognition of a shared heritage and tradition of vernacular dry stone buildings across Europe. Isn't that interesting? And there is the Fairlight Seacam in front of the kajun, and there is a notice here which says, in loving memory, Professor Nenad Bicanic, 1945-2016. This kajun is a monument to Nenad's love of the UK and Croatia, both of which he called home. He would love nothing more than for travellers to rest a little here or take shelter from the storm. He was obviously a Bob Dylan fan then. Shelter from the Storm, one of the great tracks on Bob Dylan's 1975 album, Blood on the Tracks. If you've never heard it, a fabulous album. I did see on a separate notice that, of course, now that we've left the European Union, we're not allowed to keep this stone shelter anymore, and a team of Croatian bureaucrats are expected at any moment with shicks and povels, or is it picks and shovels, to dismantle this traditional Istrian stone shelter and take it back to Croatia in recognition of the fact that we no longer have a shared history. How things change. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. If you would seek my monuments, look around you. I wonder if Boris says that when he sees a red bus with 350 million quid written on the side of it. I must stop talking about Brexit. I think dry stone walls, incidentally, refers to the fact that there is no mortar between the stones. So if you can see this, here is a stone. Oh, not sure I was supposed to do that. I wonder if the whole building is now about to fall down. Anyway, the building is made, the stone shelter is made, by putting stones together. I suppose you have to search for a stone that kind of perfectly fits, or fairly perfectly fits, another stone. So you can see these stones here, this one here and this one here. They don't fit particularly well. You could probably find a little stone or a few little stones to fit in that gap. So you've got nothing else to do one weekend, bank holiday, nothing on the telly, England knocked out of the European Championship, something like that. Come out here, grab some stones and start filling in the gaps. I don't know why they're going to get young people to do that instead of joining the army. Bring back national service. That's what I say. It says here, right, stop farm vehicles crossing. Well, I mean, how am I supposed to do that? Am I supposed to drag some kind of tank trap with me, behind me on my bike, and then set it up just to stop the farm vehicles crossing? I mean, why do they leave these kind of notices that you can't obey? I mean, it's ridiculous. Stop farm vehicles crossing. Well, I would if I could. I mean, if I had a bazooka or something, I'd kneel down in the middle of this track and I'd say, "Stop! If you're coming any nearer, I shall blow you out of the sky. I shall blow you off the face of the earth. You combine harvester. You tractor. You farm vehicle. You." And the farmer would look at me and say, "What are you doing?" And I'm saying, "Well, I'm following the sign. The sign told me to stop farm vehicles crossing, and I'm doing my best. I'm not succeeding." The farmer would say, "Oh, for fuck's sake, Julian. Get a grip, man. Get a grip. I'm trying. What do I get a grip of?" Leave a comment down below if you have a suggestion as to what I should get a grip of. Reality, possibly. Well, I fair tonked it back from Herdlow. And I'm coming up to this tunnel. And I came through this tunnel on the way out. I didn't get my camera out in time. So I've got it out now. You know, it's a thing, I really don't like tunnels. Now, whether that's, I mean, I suppose a Freudian would have a field day with that. I mean, is it something to do with coming out of the womb, coming out of darkness into darkness, which has been my life ever since I emerged from the womb? Or is it something else? But the fact is, when I get into a tunnel, I'm coming out of the tunnel now, but when I get into a tunnel, I feel really disorientated. It may have something to do, of course, with wearing sunglasses. Because when you're wearing sunglasses, you go into a dark tunnel. You may not know this, but you can't see fuck all. And that makes you worried that you're going to fall over. And me being a person who has a tendency to fall over anyway, I mean, it compounds the problem, doesn't it? So there's nothing to do with Freud. All you bloody psychiatrists, you can just put your books away. I'm not getting on your couch. No way, Jose. Right, here's a philosophical conundrum for you. You know, when you come across one of those maps, like a trail map, and it says "you are here," I mean, how does it know you're there? I just can't understand that. But the thing that bothers me the most is if you're not there, does it still say "you are here"? And is that some kind of issue in a space-time continuum, that we are not where we think we are where the map says we are? So where are we on the map of life, or the journey of life? In the middle of fucking nowhere, if you ask me. Well, I've arrived back at Middleton Top, and this is the Middleton incline, which I had puffed and handed my way up earlier. You didn't see me puffing and handing, but you saw me when I got to the top. And now I'm gonna ride down it, but give you an idea of what it's like. It's difficult to get an accurate idea because, you know, that's what is it? It's how film lies. They say pictures don't lie, but film lies. I mean, this has got to be, let me see, what is it? It's not a Mo Farah distance, but it's more than a, what's that fella's name? Usain Bolt distance. So it's more than 100 metres, it's more than 200 metres, it's less than 5,000 metres, so it's probably 400, no, I doubt if it's 400 metres actually. I'd say it's 300 metres. Now, I don't think there is a 300 metres distance in the Olympics, and if there was, I'm not sure
You see, he's pushing his bike. Now, I wasn't pushing my bike. I cycled all the way out. I struggled, I don't deny it. I cycled all the way out. God, blimey, these concrete lintels. Oh, God, I'm going to likely fall off and break a fucking neck before we get to the bottom. Now, luckily, at the bottom, there's something that's called a wheel pit, which I don't think it's designed for people like me to fall into, but that might be the inevitable result.
Well, this is the wheel pit, and what the wheel pit was, I don't know if I can step over this without actually falling in and breaking my stupid neck. What the wheel pit was a pit, funnily enough, that contained a wheel, and I don't know if you can see the wheel. There is part of it there, see where my finger is, and part of it, anyway, it goes around, and it's a wheel. The steel cables or the chains were attached to the wheel, and then the cables ran up to the pumping station, which is at the top, and the cables went down, pulled the wheel, or went round the wheel, and pulled the wagons up the incline. And extraordinary bit of engineering, isn't it? I would never have thought of this, but then I'm not an engineer. But amazing, isn't it? That gives you a better impression of the wheel. Can you see one of the circular parts of the wheel? And obviously it goes round under the wood. Wonderful kind of decay to this wood. Can you see that? That wood is a bit like my teeth. Decayed, ruined, destroyed, fucked, spoiled after years of Mars bars and other things. What I shouldn't have eaten, but did. The wheel pit. The wheelie. It's a wheelie pit. That doesn't really work, does it? Well, here I am back at Black Rocks and the end of my High Peaks adventure and the ride by the numbers. 30.2 miles, average 10.6, ride time 2 hours 51 minutes 8 seconds, elevation 402 feet, and I would suspect all of that came from the Middleton incline. So that's 3 fabulous days cycling after staying at the Air BnB run by my friend Kirstine in Belper in Derbyshire. So thanks for watching. I'll leave a link to her Airbnb place if you're interested in staying there, and see you next time.